right now because I have a focus in life. And for those of you that don't have a focus, I tell people all the time, if my kid came to me and I sent him to college and I was paying $40,000 a year for him to go to school or however much it is a year, and he'd come, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, man. Really? Okay. Well, I'm going to send you down to Arizona. You're going to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to pick strawberries. You can go to sleep at 11 o'clock at night. And I guarantee you, after a month of doing that shit and waking up with blisters all over your hands and being delirious because of sleep and work deprivation, you're not going to come to me with this type of bullshit. You're going to know what you want to do with your life. Or I'm going to send you to the poorest, brokest white community in the Appalachians, and you're going to flip burgers on some shithole joint by the side of the highway and see some of the most dilapidated and broken down communities. And I guarantee when you come out of there, you're going to know what you want to do with your life, and I don't have to hear this crap. So there are several things to be said about education, about the justice system. There are issues that are wrong with it. There are things that need to be reformed. And then, of course, there are a lot of personal responsibility that we need to take as a community, that you need to take as an individual for the choices that you make in life. I'm going to explain a little bit more about the music industry and what I began to deal with in the business of it that forced me to become even more revolutionary. And then I would definitely like to make some time at the end of this to take some questions from the audience. I think we're going to have some shirts set up outside, if someone calls some T-shirts or something like that. But important to me to point out is that some people don't realize what it is in the music industry. And they don't even know what a record deal really is. And when I tell them this, some people in the music industry actually get offended. And they get offended because they know that I'm speaking the truth. That record deals, unfortunately, simply a loan with terrible interest rates where you don't even get to keep the property. Let's say you take out a loan for a house. Horrible interest rate. You get stuck with 18%. They're shafting you. But you pay it all off. You own that property afterwards. You may have to pay property taxes for it, but it's yours. The person who loans you the money can't just come and say, oh, no, that's mine now. No, you got paid off. Get out of my life. Don't call me anymore. You're done for the night. Goodbye. But that's not the way it is in hip-hop or in every other source of recorded music usually, unless you have so many platinum albums under your belt that at some point you make up the laws and you have enough leverage to dictate the terms for yourself. When people come into the game fresh, usually the record company takes all of their publishing, all of their masters, and by masters, I mean they own the rights to every single aspect of your music. Let's say this young man here writes a song, and now it's used in a Mazda commercial. Now, that company would have had to pay the record company thousands of dollars, and also publishing rights for every time that commercial appears anywhere. But when you don't own your masters, brother, they take your money, and they use it for whatever they want. They can even use it for something that you may not like. Let's say there's a candidate that wants to play your song. You don't agree with the politics of this individual. Be they right wing or left wing, it doesn't matter. The point is that they have the ownership to your intellectual property. And when I realized that that's how the game was set up, it kind of forced me into this mentality of thinking, well, now the only way to really have true sovereignty, true artistic freedom, is to be independent. Am I going to suffer and struggle for that? Absolutely. Is it worth it to have that independence? Yes. It's the difference in between saying, would you like to have cable TV and HBO in a jail cell, or would you like to have no TV and be able to be free? The basic, tiny, pathetic luxury of life for the true. When I step back from that, we'll get to this Volume 1 situation. I worked any job that I possibly could to be able to afford to put it out. As a matter of fact, I even pretended I didn't speak English, and I worked in a sweatshop for 2 or 3 weeks just to get over the edge of money that I needed to in order to make that quota to pay the pressing plan for the first 32 to 3,300 copies of Revolutionary Volume 1 that came out. Now, seeing that opened my eyes to even a more traumatic, quote-unquote, immigrant experience for the Haitians and the Southeast Asian workers that were living in virtual serfdom in New York City, a city that I had lived in for literally a quarter of a century, And yet my eyes were just being opened up to their painful struggle that was even worse to what I had experienced growing up, or any person of color that grew up in the projects or Section 8 or grew up in a two-parent household such as myself could possibly experience. I had seen that when I went back to visit the third world, but until I saw it there, it's very telling, you know. Sort of the way you see prostitution sometimes, and you think, wow, that's terrible, you know, someone must be really down on themselves. But it's another thing when you see child prostitution. When it's a 10-year-old girl that comes up to you and tries to sell themselves to you in a third world country. It says something different. It speaks to the soul. Any moral individual, doesn't matter your religion, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, an atheist individual, because I don't believe that just one religion determines the ultimate morality of a human being. Even an agnostic individual, at some point that has to make you feel something. So when I saw those injustices, when I saw the music industry being set up the way it was, where they gave you a small advance and then they bought out the rights for every single thing that you had, I said the only way that I can do this is to find a distributor that will take a small 10 to 15% cut for distributing the music, for getting it into some stores, and then I will make the music myself. I will bear the sole responsibility of producing, recording, mastering, pressing up the music, and then putting it out. I'm going to write all those things off on my taxes, of course, legally, because I can. And I need to learn the business of music, that I'm going to set up an office where I live and then deduct that from my taxes. And then I began to realize that it's not that rich people are smarter than poor people. It's just that they know how the system works. And they're doing it legally. That they sit down with lawyers who understand the law and who have made it a business for 10, 20, 30, 40 years to legally cheat the system. The same reason that people who bankrupted this country are not in prison. Because technically, according to them, they didn't do anything illegal. Even though they were the predatory loaners, they were the people who understood how the system worked and convinced a whole lot of people to live above their means because they calculated that they could foreclose on them and then force America, holding their economy hostage to give them trillions of dollars in bailout. How are all these things interconnected? Because I happen to talk about all of them in my music. But also because you're all dealing with them in your personal lives right now in some way, shape, or form. By the time I came out with Revolutionary Volume 2 and The Third World, it was already in full swing, and I realized that there had always been a market for revolutionary hip-hop, for street hip-hop, and that anyone who has ever made hip-hop or gangster rap or street music has always dealt with some aspect of political and radicalized politics. It may not be so articulated in their music, but it is in their subject matter and in their sentiment. For example, you listen to an album by the Ghetto Boys, We Can't Be Stopped, one of the first albums that they had, and you listen to the actual content, you will find a very political record, word for word. And I think at some point when you look at other guys, even if it's NWA, Ice Cube, of course these aren't people with perfect politics, these are young individuals. And I remind people who sit in this room that hip-hop was not just a Black and Latino art form, but it was also an art form that felt betrayed by the Civil Rights Movement. We felt as if our elders didn't come and educate us in a positive way. We felt as if they were simply judgmental and they looked down upon us. Because how do you teach a child? You don't teach a child with hatred. You don't teach a child with antagonizing him and disrespecting him. You teach a child by taking the time to love them, to understand where they're coming from and what their personal problems are, to work past them and taking the time to realize what you need to dedicate from yourself to their personal growth. If any of you have a child, they're going to learn more by you sitting down and talking with them for an hour about what they did wrong and what they could do to better that, than you simply beating the hell out of them, leaving them in a room alone with welts and a bloody nose for something that they don't even understand happened. I think that when hip-hop came out and we saw a lot of these black pro-Christian groups that were driving over hip-hop CDs with bulldozers or whatever it may be, people who denounced them and said, you're a disgrace to the black race, you know, you shouldn't be making music like that. Who are you talking to? A 19-year-old Ice Cube? A 20-year-old Eazy-E coming straight out of the ghetto who didn't live a Cosby-type lifestyle that you did growing up, going to church every day? No. So when you talk to them, you're supposed to come from an idea of Christianity, and though Jesus walked with the pimps and the pushers and with the sinners, you're going to sit there and assume the moral high ground on a child instead of having that conversation and growth, which is what I try to do now, to have conversations and growth with the youth of America. And even though I love and I relish opportunities like this to speak at colleges, I think sometimes I have more fun when I go to the prison programs and I talk to young children and I see the way that people light up when a young brother of African American descent realizes that his history does not begin at the bottom of the boat in 1622. That it begins thousands and thousands of years before that, and that it's not black history we're talking about, it's human history. And that people realize, hey, I'm not just some part of some big white blob collective of America. I have a history too. My ancestors come from somewhere. Let's look at the constant wars that existed in Europe time and time and time again. Let's look at the way that the Middle Ages was actually set up. So one kingdom overlapped another, creating systems of war again and again and again. So that there is no one race that is the pure race, and there is no one race that's a devil race. That simply the issues that a group of people, that a demographic have endured over periods of time shape the way that they interact with other people. So when the Europeans first immigrated here, and they were not all good, nice, kind Christian settlers as the mythology of America would have you believe, because what happened at the World Trade Center was not urban renewal. It was the destruction of people's lives. So therefore, how could the colonization, the rape, and the destruction of indigenous people in America be the settlement of America? If you're sitting in that chair, and I stand on that chair while you're still sitting on it, I'm standing on you. I'm not standing in an empty chair. At some point, we need to acknowledge that this exists, and then we move past that. Not because we hate America, but because we love America and we want to put it into perspective so our children don't end up being manipulated by people who have manipulated the mythology from the beginning of this entire social experiment. I think that it has been incredibly important for me to learn not just from average, ordinary individuals, but also from people that you will look at and think, wow, what about your interactions with Chuck D or Lord Jamar? The people who were an integral part of developing the idea of hip-hop were also very much an influence on me. Africa Bambaataa, who invented the word hip-hop. And he said, we are the universal Zulu nation because all races are created equal. Because the idea that we are a different race because we have a different phenotype is absurd. If a white person and a black person, an Asian and a Latino person, it's still a human being that's born, and that's being lost in the equation. That when you demonize one group of people, then automatically it, where's the button? I guess I didn't like that either. Do I have to move more? Is it like a sensory thing?
Isn't he leaving with us? Fire marshal.
Do that like every 5 minutes. I'll be at.
Yeah. Fire marshal.
Why? What's going on? We don't need to kick anybody out. There's no one that needs to leave. There's no fire hazard. Is there? Okay, well, I didn't see that there's that many people. I'm sorry for everyone that's being forcibly removed. please find a chair. I think there are a couple of chairs, people have left. There's a chair open up here. You know, at least give them the opportunity to try to find a seat for the other people that left before you forcibly remove them. Young lady, there's a chair right there.